Now just 2 weeks for Election Day, and we wanted the very best to join us. They weren't available, so instead, managing editor at The Bulwark, Sam Stein, is here. Sam, thanks for being here this morning. Donald Trump yesterday raised some eyebrows. Thank you, Sam. We kid because we love. Donald Trump yesterday in an appearance raised some eyebrows when he admitted that at least to this point, he has not seen any evidence of voter fraud. But one wonders if he will perhaps change his tune in the next 2 weeks. We certainly know he has laid the groundwork to claim that this election was rigged. So what do you make of this sort of surprising admission yesterday?
I'm still stunned by that intro and hurt, frankly. The admission, what do we think? Do you think he's going to stick with this? No,
I don't think he's going to stick with this, no.
Like, the first sign of trouble, he'll say something fraudulent has happened. So I don't put any stock into this whatsoever. One might call it a gaffe on his part because he's not supposed to say the truth in this case. But I imagine that in a couple days, if not weeks, we'll be hearing a lot of fraud, if that is, it starts to look like the election's not going his way.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it comes, I mean, even for Donald Trump standards, the last few days have been just stunning in their scattershot nature, whether it's McDonald's.
What gave it away? What gave it away? The Arnold Palmer comments? Was that something that gave it away?
Yeah, that was my tip-off. Let's just get a read on this. I mean, I know he's Donald Trump, right? And his team, his campaign is pushing back against reporting and claims from the vice president's team that Trump is exhausted. That he's having a hard, that they're canceling interviews. He's having a hard time focusing. He's apparently looked like there was a clip that he's falling asleep at an event. Right. Is this the pressure? Give us just a sense of, from your team's reporting, where do things stand right now in Trump world?
Right. So we did a story. So Mark Caputo for The Bulwark did a story on this. And the truth of the matter is, it's twofold. One is, of course he's exhausted, right? He's 78 years old. He's keeping a really insane schedule. He's going all over the country, and not just battleground states. Remember, he went to Coachella. He's set to go to Madison Square Garden. He's also up at odd hours because he's addicted to his phone, and he likes to post, and he watches a lot of TiVo TV, you know. So he's not like the pinnacle of self-care, let's put it that way. So yes, he's exhausted, but frankly, like, he should be exhausted. I'm exhausted. You're probably exhausted too. Like, that's just how it works. Does that suggest serious cognitive decline? No, not necessarily, but I will say, and people who have been around him and have observed him have said, you know, he's not as sharp as he was. You know, you look at any clip from 2016 to 2024, and it's clear what the differences are. He's 78 years old. He's old. This is what happens. This is the exact criticism that Biden had to face. It's something that Trump has to face. I think it's been exacerbated by the fact that he's on the trail in this critical moment and he's getting no sleep. And the entire staff around him feels similarly about this. They can't sleep either, because if they were to sleep on the plane, it would be a sign of weakness in Trump world.
Yeah, Sam, first of all, I am definitely exhausted. But you're right.
I'm exhausted.
when Rudy Giuliani fell asleep on the plane in 2016, many people believe that cost him a cabinet position.
Exactly. He can't do it.
Can't do it. And Trump has been indeed posting on Truth Social at 1, 2, 3 in the morning sometimes. And I think another thing that maybe has been overlooked here is perhaps some pressure on Trump. And just a couple weeks after the election, he's facing a criminal sentence.
Yes.
And he also knows that if he loses, some of the federal cases against him could be revived. But I'm curious, Sam, when Vice President Harris took over the top of the ticket, there was a real emphasis, like it's going to be, the prosecutor versus the con. And that lasted for a few weeks, maybe for that first debate. That argument has completely vanished. Why?
Right. Well, I think for starters, she and her team looked at the data and were like, okay, the undecided voters, the people who are on the fence, they don't know enough about her, right? Even though she's been vice president, if you look at any of these focus groups, the main critique was, what has she done? Like, where's she been? I barely hear about her. And so they spent a lot of time and money, frankly, going out to the public and trying to introduce her on a biographical level. Now, some of that was, look, she used to be a prosecutor, and they used that prosecutor line to also talk about the border, right? Like, one of the things that they said about the border was not just that the bill that the Senate had considered for border security was nixed because of Trump, but that Harris herself has prosecuted immigration cases. Now you're starting to see it's actually coming back a little bit more, right? The close of the election has been heavy contrast with Trump. Looking at the threats from within line that he's been leveled, been leveling, I should say. And then going back to the idea that this guy is a unique threat to democracy, a potential autocrat. His own former chief of staff, Joint Chiefs of Staff, head of Joint Chiefs of Staff said he's fascist to the core. In that genre, in that vein, she is position herself as someone who believes in law enforcement, who in fact was part of law enforcement. But yeah, I'm with you on this. It kind of dropped from the public consciousness for a little bit, coming back now.
And Sam, you know, that idea that Trump is a threat to democracy, polls suggest that particularly resonates with older voters who are more familiar with like the Cold War mindset, or even some of them remember the aftermath of World War II. Older voters also, people in the White House think that that's a place where the prescription drug price controls they put in place could really help with them. Do you see perhaps a closing argument there where Harris is going to focus on those voters to try to put her over the edge?
Well, John, I would be very curious, maybe you could report this out, if Joe Biden's sitting there smiling a little bit, right? Like, this was his bread and butter. You remember, he launched his re-election campaign at Valley Forge. This was the speech that he gave, and people for a while were like, well, this is sort of, no one really cares about this stuff. It's really not going to move the dial. Like, you need to talk about domestic issues and inflation. And yeah, Harris has talked about those too. But to close on this is a very Biden-esque close, I will say. I do think, to your point, it resonates with older voters. It also resonates with the Cheney types, right? And Harris is making a very clear, aggressive play for that swath of the electorate. And that's why you see this so heavily emphasized down the end stretch here.
And I suspect we'll hear from President Biden when he travels to both New Hampshire and Arizona this week.